Alright, so it's review time. I got another RC to review from RC World. This is one of the Amazon cars, and I'll turn you around and show you what it's all about here in just a second. But it's an 18th scale monster truck. So let's get right into it. I'm gonna basically do a quick unboxing. I'm not an unboxing guy. I hate that. And then we're going to go through, tear some things apart, see what it's made out of, and then we'll get it out to test and see what it'll do in its stock form, and then we'll go through some options of what you can do to kind of ramp it up a little bit. So let's get started on it. So there we have it, guys. It's not bound free, whatever that's supposed to be. It's got some decent box art here. I got some information on the side panels, which you guys can pause it and read if you want. And yeah, it's got 2.4 gigahertz radio, your typical stuff there. And it does have some pretty cool features here. It's got metal diffs. The shocks are supposed to have oil in them, which is pretty cool. And it does show that these have CVDs, at least in the front. So kind of interested to see what that's all about. And you turn over the box on the bottom there. It's got a little information, blah, blah, blah. You guys can pause and look at that if you want. So let's get it out of the box and see what it looks like. So you got your typical set of instructions here. Seems pretty informative about the car. Talks about the battery packs. Looks like transmitter instructions, blah, 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 more blah, blah, blah. Looks like we got some part number stuff in here. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you can actually order all these little parts. And we'll go over availability and stuff on Amazon here in just a minute, once we get done with everything here. So you can kind of see how easy it is to get parts for this thing. Got a nice little parts diagram. So, okay, it's pretty interesting here, and I guess these are other models that you can get. Alright, so this is the car here. Haven't taken it out of the box just yet, but looks pretty cool. Just kind of feeling on the tires here. They feel very plasticky, you know, to be expected. I lucked out with this guy over here. You know, there's a lot of comparisons, but there's also a lot of things to not compare. You know, everyone's different in its own right, so let's not judge it just yet. Let me get it out of this little box stuff here, and we'll take a better look at it. Alright, so you have this little box here, and inside there you get, looks like one battery with a charger. I think it's a 2-cell, I'm not sure. And you get a couple pieces here. It's pretty cool. Oh, look at that, you get an actual extra shock. Looks like you get a spur, some links, screwdriver. Anything else in there? Looks like there's some Allen keys and a couple clips. Oh, there's actually even a spare CVD. That's different. Looks like there's 2 spare CVDs. Huh? Okay. So this is your transmitter. Kind of small compared to some of the other ones here. You know, it's let's see how it would fit in the hands here. I mean, it fits pretty good if you want to do one-handed driving. Got your typical basic stuff here. You got throttle trim, steering trim. It's pretty much all you got. I don't see any dual rates or anything like that on there, but something like this you probably won't need it. So that's pretty typical. Now here's the truck. Let's see if we can kind of get a little bit of a bounce test here. So it's supposed to have oil shocks. Feels like there's a little something in there. So let's see how it bounces here. Okay, a little noisy, but it seems like it's got a little something in there. Now let me show you the Hey Boxing, which does have oil shocks, and I know and it's a tiny bit bigger than this truck here, as you can see, just size comparison here. But I'll show you what this one does. See how much softer that is? So either that one doesn't have very good oil filled shocks, or there's maybe not enough oil in them or something. we'll tear into that here in a minute. And looks like we do have a second battery. That's pretty cool. So let's get the top off here so we can take a little better peek at what's underneath. Body seems to be same as like what you get on the Hey Boxing there. So here's the inside here, guys. You got a brush 370 or 380 motor? I don't know. Whatever those things are. Looks like you got some lights going to the front. That's pretty cool. And it got this weird connector, which is really oddball, whatever. But that's okay. Chassis seems to be pretty decent, actually. And I'm noticing that the shocks mainly in the rear seem like they're a little light on fluid. So what we'll do is we'll tear into some of the stuff here, kind of see what it's all about. But we're going to start with these wheels here. They got that weird Phillips head screw holding that in there. But let's take one of those off so we can see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm taking this off here. Looks like it's got that's different. So it's held on by this weird screw first off. Then you got this weird some kind of proprietary hex type thing there. That's a little unfortunate because that's going to make it a little harder to upgrade. But I suppose you could probably take these knuckles or hubs or whatever they're called here and swap them out with something else. That's very possible. Looks like the other piece that goes in a differential goes in there pretty far, so that's kind of cool that it goes in that far. It's going to eliminate, you know, the stuff popping out fairly well, so kind of see what that does. So let me take off one of these shocks here and we'll get a look at that next. Okay, so these shocks are kind of weird. They got a screw on this side and on the other side, as you can see them laying down there. You take the cap off the top, and as you can tell, there is no fluid in these. I guess swore these are supposed to be oil filled, but maybe not. And this is just, you know, your run-of-the-mill friction garbage, in my opinion. But you know, we'll run it anyway, see what it does. The good thing about this is, though, let me get the top back on here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so these are just some shocks I got laying around here, these purple ones. But as you can see, I think the sizes will swap over. I bought these for the WL Toys build that I did, and I never really used them. It looks like these would swap right in. And there you have it. These would fit right on there, no problem. So that's something to keep in mind when you're buying this truck. It's fairly reasonably priced, sorry. But you're going to have things like this in it, you know, because obviously of the price. But these are not terribly expensive. You could buy some of these for, I don't know, $10, something along those lines, 10, 12 bucks, something like that. And these are oil filled. They work pretty good. I got them kind of stiff right now because I was doing some major launches, but yeah, you can definitely get you some better shocks. Now, I do have something else I want to try while I have this wheel off of here. I have an old CVD from a Hey Boxing, whatever that is, A959A or whatever that thing's called. I never can remember. It looks like this would be the same size. So let's try to swap this in there and see if maybe we can get an option to put an actual hex on there. So let's take off probably, I'd say probably just one of these, maybe the top or whatever. See if we can slide that thing out of there and see if I might have to take both of those out actually now that I'm looking at it. But take these off here, see if maybe I can slide in there and see if we can actually get a hex on it. So let's check it out. Okay, so I got two different ones I want to try. This is the Hey Boxing one that we're going to try now. Looks like it does fit in there. The only issue is we're not getting to the holes for the hex to align, which it doesn't allow the in there to go in far enough to engage the hole. So the hole's still back here somewhere. Okay, so I got a WL Toys version here too. Let's try it out, see what it'll do. And it won't go that far either. Now, these do have bearings in here, which is kind of cool. I guess you could take one of those bearings out, so let's try that, see if, just, you know, for shits and giggles here, see if it'll actually fit. Okay, so just doing a little bit of messing around here, I found a bearing that would fit in here on the end. I would still need to find one for the, let me get this thing out here so it don't fall, for the opposite side over here, and then you could actually use this, which is a Hey Boxing CVD or CVA or whatever they're called. As you can see, it does allow you to access the hole there, so you can put a hex on there. The dog bone piece that goes inside there is a little bit too thick, but if you could get that to go in there, the sizing would work out. As you can see, it's really close now, and if you get it to go inside the differential there, that would actually snap in place. So that is a very real option later on in the future, if you're wanting to upgrade this guy. But as you can see, this bearing here is quite a bit bigger than the ones they give you, because they want you to go inside and interlock inside there with the bearings, not on the outside. But you could potentially use the outside ring. There's nothing to block you from using that. I tend to keep tons of bearings and stuff in stock for different things that I'm doing. This isn't all the bearings I have, but this is most of them. I do have, you know, old parts bins and things like that that I keep, and you know, just old stuff lying around just in case I might need it for something else later. So it's always a good idea. Then that way you might be able to slap something in there. I mean, you might even be able to get something like that to work. That's a axial shaft, but obviously the end wouldn't work there, so you'd have to come up with something for that. But there's always an option. There's always things that you could do. I have tons of parts here, which I'm not going to go through all of them now. That's for a later video when we decide to start upgrading. Alright, so getting another look around the truck here where we got it on the side. We do have a servo saver in there. I'm not sure how necessary that is, but we do have one. Looks like you got one of those little miniature servos in there as well, kind of like an Emax size or whatever. And then of course you got your battery, which this thing should be fairly easy to pull out. Yeah, that's pretty simple. I do like that part. So instead of the Velcro straps, you just kind of lock it in like so, and that should hold the battery in very nice. So let's turn over on this side here and kind of get a look at everything here. It looks like they used a little bit of that dielectric grease or whatever. That's what it looks like to me anyway. But it's not. It's that plastic greasy stuff or whatever, and that's to lube up the steering, whatever you call that, the rack part or whatever. So that's kind of nice. But if you notice, looking all over this truck, all the hardware is Phillips head. I do not like that. That's a downside for me, because Phillips head stuff tends to strip out pretty easy, and then you're just kind of stuck. So once things start failing on this, obviously you would want to, you know, change the hardware out to hex hardware if you decide to go that far. Now, obviously, with something like this being so cheap, it might be something that you know, want to kind of invest a little bit in. It's kind of hard saying. It does have a center shaft here. I'm sure that's not a differential back here. It's probably more set up like the WL Toys, and I think the Hey Boxing is the same way, where it has the shaft that goes back here to a gear. It may or may not have a slipper on there. I doubt it. And then that'll kind of act as like your center gear or whatever you would call that. And then you got a differential on the rear, differential on the front. So I'm going to get the tire back on here, and then we're going to take off the cover over here and kind of see what's all in there. Okay, so this is how you get the cover off back here. This is not really very good design, but I mean, it is what it is. So you got to take off the center piece right here with those screws. Then you got to take off the entire 1 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws, and I took out these long pin screws here, which hold the upper arms and the rear off. I just figured that was easier to get them out of the way, and then you can pop off the entire cover. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's the design of it. So getting our first look here at the rear differential. I'm not going to pull the front apart. These are going to be pretty much identical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these tires set up here a little bit so we can get a better look at it. Okay, so with the tire sitting the way it is right there, just kind of like out of the way, you can access the differential pretty easy. And there are no shims or anything there, so you don't have to worry about that. It does have a connecting gear right there that goes on the shaft, and that's nice to see that it don't actually have a screw in there. So we're going to find out real quick, since we have it out, if it just pops out or not. I'm hoping it just kind of slides off and notches in. So let's get that part off. We'll take a look at it. Alright, so this is a way better design than what I hated on the WL Toys. So the WL Toys has the same kind of gear design, except for there's a screw that goes in the center, and it always backs out. So this is a way better design. What they've done is they've got like your little spline section there. They've got a bearing on there, and then you put on, I think it goes this way, I don't remember. You put this piece on there, which it lines up on the hex, and it's kind of hard to do one-handed. Let me see if I can get it this way here. Get it lined up, and so let me get this on here and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, so this is what it looks like when it's reassembled, and it just fits on that hexagonal shaft there and sits down into the grooves there for the bearings. That's a decent little setup. I actually like that. And this motor actually comes and slides right out of here, and it's set up on it's got the little plastic mount or whatever there, kind of slides down in place. So that's pretty nice to see as well. The only bad thing about that is I don't think that you could really swap out different pinions unless you were to go with like a smaller gear right here or something. Maybe something like that will work, but I'm not sure this truck would even hold the power anyway, seeing since the shafts and everything are plastic. They feel pretty good, but they still are plastic. So just keep in mind what you got here, guys, and you know, don't go too crazy on something like this, because it's kind of a hobby grade, but it's more of a step up from toy on its way to hobby grade. So that's kind of where I'd put this category here. Kind of the same as the WL Toys, except for the WL Toys had a lot of issues and things that come off and stuff, and lots of upgrades for it. I don't recommend doing, you know, those kind of things with something like this. Now, if it performs very well, you may end up seeing it, you know, like the Hey Boxing over there. That's one of my favorite trucks. And I've done some mild upgrading to it, but there again, I haven't done much at all to it because it doesn't really need anything. So I'm hoping this one here will be halfway decent anyway, and we'll have another little toy to add to the arsenal. Okay, so this differential breaks apart in 3 pieces. So you got like a bottom half here. Let's take a look at it. This is all plastic gears, and as well as the center here, it's got like a center disc that holds all the 4 gears in there. I forget what they call those, planetaries or whatever. That's all plastic as well, and it has some grease in there, which I may add just a tiny bit of fluid just to kind of help it out. Obviously I don't want to go adding too much to it, because I don't think putting a lot of power through something like this is a great idea with plastic gears. So I may just kind of leave that alone. I think that's what I'm going to do, just leave it alone for now. So I think what the next step is going to be, guys, is get a battery charged up, get it all put back together, take it out, just see what it'll do. It looks like it's fairly decent. You know, obviously the differentials, you know, are going to be something that you're going to have to worry about if you're going to try to put too much power through it. I would definitely try to stick with the 2S packs. I wouldn't go with anything more than that. And you know, we have these plastic shafts as well, dog bones or whatever these are called. So yeah, I would just try to stick with something like that. You might be able to add a brushless setup in here and get some decent speed out of it, but I wouldn't go adding any more than like a 2S setup with, I don't know, a 3200 or something like that kV. But let's try it out the way it sits, before we make up our mind, and just see what it'll do. So this is the only things that I could find that were parts available, and these are basically just like the stock parts. Now you're going to have to get somewhat creative when you look for these Chinese type parts, because this here says 116, which would be a 16 scale. Now this truck that I'm reviewing here, it says on the box 118 scale. The Hayboxing 18859A that I have is I think it's a 16 scale, but they also talk about it being an 18 scale. So just keep that in mind when you look for stuff like this. And we'll go back here. This is what I typed in the search bar. Wiaorchi, I guess that's how you would say it. 118 all-terrain car, RC car, parts. And that seems to be the best thing to come up with actual parts here. And as you can see, it pulls up a lot of stuff from like Hayboxing and some of the other brands, like the FMS stuff, and I think there's a couple other ones on here that it pulls up. But mainly it pulls up a lot of this like WL Toys type stuff here, which you can't use that on here. It'd be nice if you could use their dog bones because they're similar sizing, but the end pieces for the CVAs or whatever don't, like these pieces here, they don't line up. Now you obviously have more shocks and stuff on here, but as you can tell, man, these shocks are 18 bucks for a set, for a small car. This is $18 here. It seems to be the going rate for something halfway decent. You can catch them a little bit, cheaper here and there, but nothing crazy. Now, if you were able to use these Hayboxing tires, you could actually use these right here, which I actually like. They got really good tread and stuff on them. The ones that come on this car here, they're okay. But off-road, they like to slide around an awful lot. It'd be way better if we had a little more tread on it like this. But, it is what it is. It doesn't have a lot of power going through it, so I understand that. But as you can see, just looking through some of these parts here, there's nothing to really grab on Amazon for replacement parts. Now, I did find in the book where you can email them, and I suppose that's how you order parts if you want them. I'm not sure, but since this is an Amazon exclusive type car, I've seen it like used and stuff on eBay and things like that, but I've not seen it to buy anywhere else other than Amazon as far as the major online stores. That may change here soon, I'm sure, but as of right now, this is what I see. So as of this video, I'll call it, this is what we have, which is not a lot of parts availability. It's kind of unfortunate. All right, so we're going to give this thing a little bit of a speed run here. I've got a nice little place here that I got picked out. Let me show you what I got. So this is a nice little place I got picked out over here. It's all fresh blacktop. Trying to do it in between the rain because we've had a bunch of rain here recently. So we're just going to see what it'll do here. I got the speed meter locked up on it. So we'll just see what we can see here. So what we're going to do is get everything started here, and we'll leave this over here, probably somewhere on the front of the truck, and then we'll take everything over there and get set up. Okay, shouldn't need a whole lot of room here, but we're going to do some one-handed driving here. This little remote is actually pretty cool for one-handed, so I'm hoping we get a decent little rip out of this guy here. So just kind of troll it around here, get lined up, and then we'll see what she can do. Here we go. That's full beans, guys. That might be maybe 20, maybe. All right, so let's take it over and see what we got on the speed meter. So we're just gonna pull them over here, kind of see what we got. All right, so it's kind of hard to see here. I'm gonna screen record this anyway and pop it up here on the screen. So let's see what we got here. 26 kilometers an hour. So let's see what that works out to be in mile per hour. Gotta set it up here, the units, miles. 16 mile an hour. Okay, it's not quite 20, but that's all right. Okay, so now that we've got our baseline speed here, let's try it one more time here. So let's get everything resetted. Reset, not resetted. What the hell is wrong with me? And we'll just give it another little rip here. Looks like the steering might be off just a touch. See if I can trim this up just a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. You see how the steering is kind of bowed out there a little bit? Let me get out of the shadow there. That's nothing I can change. It's all plastic pieces, and there is no adjustment on it, so hopefully it doesn't hurt it too bad. Let's give it another full little rip here. We'll start off slow, see if I can build up. Okay. Get him way down there. Bring him back. Okay, that should be enough to get another little speed on him here. So let's bring him over here and find out how we did. Now for this type of scale here, it might not be too terribly bad. At least that's what I'm thinking anyway. So again, you can't hardly see this. So let's just see what it says. 16 mile an hour. Okay, cool. So that's our baseline here. Now we're going to run over here on some rocks and just kind of see if it'll do any kind of jumping. 16 mile an hour is pretty slow, so we might not be able to get much out of it, but let's give it a shot here. So we got a couple little things over here that we can explore with. Okay, that's not too bad. Let's see if we can get up on these piles here just a little bit. So I mean, it kind of does a little bit. I mean, you can force it and make it go. It's definitely not the most comfortable in that environment. But now you got to remember the target. These are going to be for kids, you know, not for grown-ass adults like me. I mean, you could, you know, I throw stuff like this in the car and play with them all day long. I don't really care, but it's not really my target. You know, they're targeting little kids with this, people just entering the hobby. That would definitely be where I would put this at. We're going to give it a durability test later, but that's not today. I got to find somewhere that makes sense, maybe a skate park or something. So that was a pretty cool little jump there if I would have made it run right. So let me get lined up here, see if I can actually make that jump. All right, so the good thing about something like this is you don't need a lot of speed. It, you know, doesn't have a lot of speed anyway, so it'll get up there pretty quick. I just want to see if it'll, or how far it will actually jump this. So let's check it out. Okay, let's bring it back around, see if I can get a better hit on it. Let's try to hit it rolling. Okay, so whatever. I mean, it's not the best in jumping. Okay, that's I would give that on a scale of 5 for this little guy here. I would give that maybe a 2. And that's okay. You know, you got to have some good with the bad. I get it. So let's try to see it one more time, that proverbial one more time. See if I don't break the damn thing here. Let's see if we can hit it from this way. Maybe it's easier for me to see it. That wasn't too bad. Okay, let's try it again. So I just want to get you know, as much information as I can for you guys here. Okay, so it'll do little jumps like this. It can handle them pretty good. Like I said, we'll do some durability on it later, but that's not too bad. For a truck this scale and the parts that are on it, not being able to upgrade a whole bunch of stuff here because it has like screwed in wheels and things like that. You could probably change that out. The problem with things like that is if you change them out, what's the cost? Because you could buy a Hey Boxing, the 18859A or whatever that is here that I like. That thing, it's a 16 scale, which is a little bit bigger than this. I think they call it an 18 or whatever. I don't know. But that one comes brushless, oil-filled shocks, all that jazz, and it's like $100 or $120 or something like that. This will cost you $46, $50, something like that. Again, it's not bad to, do a few upgrades and stuff on there, but once you start closing in on that $100 mark, you might as well just buy a Hey Boxing. So this is not targeted for somebody that wants to do that. This is targeted for, in my opinion, somebody that would be just getting in the hobby, a kid. If you just want something to throw around and bash on or whatever, it'll probably take a little bit of abuse. We're gonna go as far as we can with it here. I have some ideas. I do have some brushless setups laying around, so I have plans to see what I can get away with here. But again, it's not going to be something that everybody's going to be doing, because what's the point when you can buy, something that's already better out of the box for, cheaper price. But yeah, so far so good. This thing's kind of cool. It does decent for what it is. Just remember what it is. You know what I mean? Don't expect this to be the next Arma or the Grom or anything like that. It's not that. It really isn't. This is targeted for kids or even young adults or whatever getting into the hobby that's never had anything like this. It's brushed, so you got a little bit of limitations there. It does not have oil-filled shocks. It has friction dampeners, which is disappointing as hell, especially this day and age. Man, they don't cost that much. They should really just throw those in there. Even if you raise the price of the RC up a couple bucks, it would definitely be worth it. People would pay that. But it is an interesting car, and what I mean by that is the interesting part for me is the setup, like on the steering, on the knuckles and things like that. It has an interesting type of setup that looks like it could be, as long as you don't get too crazy with it, pretty durable. So we're going to test that out too, eventually. I got a whole bunch of plans for this thing here. We're going to kind of take it through the ringer and see what we can do with it. But yeah. This is a review on whatever that thing's called. I can't remember the name of it there. It's made by Wiaorchi or whatever. I will put all this stuff in the description so you guys don't have to, hear me try to say that name again, because I have no idea what it's called. It is a Chinese company, Chinese car. But again, it's kind of cool. I'm going to play around with it and see what I can do. So just stay tuned, guys. We'll see how far we can take this. Here we go again.